Hello everyone, Jeremy here, and today we are going to be taking a look at this pretty large figure from AMC's The Walking Dead. This is Rick Grimes, and this figure was made by McFarlane Toys. They are also responsible for the somewhat new line of building construction sets that are also in the same vein as AMC's The Walking Dead. Now, this particular figure here, Rick Grimes, he stands at 10 inches tall, and he has himself a removable arm and a couple different accessories. This is really more like a statue. And I got this from Toys R Us for $28.99 after price matching it on Amazon. Now let's take a better look at this packaging here. We see on the side here, it says 10-inch Rick Grimes deluxe action figure. Then as we move down to the bottom, there it is with the quote from Rick Grimes: "They're screwing with the wrong people." Now, of course, if you're a fan of the comic book, you know that he did not use the word screwing. He used a much more explicit, much more appropriate term that I think AMC should have bit the bullet on and let him say it. It would have been awesome. On the back of the box, we can see a couple of different poses we'll be able to put Rick Grimes in once we get him out of the package. And it also tells us in text form the different accessories that he has. So he has a revolver, a rifle, a pocket knife, and an alternate arm. And then we get to see the different characters that are also in this series that are also 10 inches. So they're all within the same scale. And those characters are a Bungee Walker, Abraham Ford, we've got Carol, cannot pronounce her last name, Rick Grimes, Herschel Green, and the Governor. Pretty cool batch of figures to have. Now, this is the only one that I have seen in my particular Toys R Us. I do know that there is also a Daryl Dixon version of this, according to the reviews on Amazon, but I have yet to see him in person. But for now, we have Mr. Rick Grimes. So we have to take him out of the package and see just how good this figure possibly is. This Rick Grimes is definitely one of the most detailed figures that I have in my collection. It is absolutely astonishing how good the detail is on this guy. And because he's so tall at 10 inches, I'm just going to pan down slowly so that you can get a good sense of all of the detail. Take particular note of the wrinkles in his shirt and the general filth that covers his shirt, because of course in the show everyone is just dirty and beaten and worn, and that comes across very well in his attire, from his collar all the way down to his boots. And even his boots have little ridges in them that are kind of textured. You can feel them. They feel rough, and I think that's a really nice touch as well. So the current stance that I have Rick Grimes in is one of the two stances that he's capable of being posed in. In this case, he just has the sniper rifle over his shoulder with the scope upside down. If we can just spin him around, we can look at the back of him, look at the hair, the waviness of his hair that is very, very much like Rick Grimes that was played by Andrew Lincoln in The Walking Dead. And I do think that this particular pose was seen in promotional posters, I believe somewhere around season 3 or season 4 of The Walking Dead. And I think just right here, if we take a look at his hair, I think it's really interesting how they made the waviness of his hair look very similar to the waviness of Andrew Lincoln's hair in the Walking Dead show. You know, it's little details like that where I can look at him and say, wow, that really does look like his hair. All right, so let's take a look at his back now and just scroll down from that and just take a look at the different mixings of paint. How we have the natural color of the shirt before, when it was clean, was just really more of a nice light brown beige color, but then over time has just become very worn and dark and black, and the sweat that permeates throughout his shirt and his belt buckle. Belt buckle is really cool. There's detail on that belt with all the different attachments on it, and they all have this sort of circular pattern going about them. And I like the addition of the little silver buckles. That's also a really nice touch. We see that he has his knife in his gun holster, which fits perfectly. Um, that's kind of cool because you do need a place to put the knife, since it does come with the set. So you want some place to put it, but most of the time you're just going to be using the handgun attachment with his arm or the rifle. And also, here's another really cool bit of detail here. Take a look at his watch. There's a couple of bits of detail actually. I really like the fact that they decided to include this nice watch on his left wrist. You can see the hands of the watch. That's really good. And then also on his hand, you can sort of see his wedding ring on his left ring finger. And that is a very nice touch as well. So overall, as far as the detail of this guy goes, really good job by McFarlane Toys with this Rick Grimes figure. He's very well detailed, and really the only thing about him is when I look at him from, let's say, this angle, I can say, wow, that really does look like Andrew Lincoln. This looks like the real guy. This looks like the Rick Grimes that we know from the television show. But when you look at him kind of head on like this, that's when things start to get a little bit iffy. It's where the likeness starts to come apart a little bit. He does look like Andrew Lincoln from The Walking Dead. However, there's something slightly off, and I suspect that it could be in the cheeks. This figure's cheeks to me look a little more full, whereas Andrew Lincoln's cheeks are more pronounced. I can see his cheekbones more. Basically, his face seems thinner than this guy. This guy's face is very much full. And as far as the beard goes, I think that's okay. Perhaps maybe just a tad bit dark, but the whole flow of the beard is good, and the hair is really good. But I just think that it's those cheekbones that really make you go, you kind of look like the real guy, but you're not quite there yet. But for $28 what I paid for this, $30 what you'll probably find it for, or $34 if you get it from Toys R Us and pay their price, this is still a really good figure, and that's just describing the way that he looks. But we have not yet gotten to the different attachments and everything, so let's do that now. Let's take a look at these additional accessories. So along with the figure, you also get these few pieces here that make up his other arm, in which you will take off his right arm and then just put this one here, so he will have the same kind of the pose that you usually see in the posters for either season 3 or season 4 of The Walking Dead show. Now, this is not one solid piece. This is actually made up of a few pieces. We have this attachment here that goes into it makes up like his shoulder all the way down to like his bicep, and then we have this piece right here that's from the bicep to his hand, and then the revolver is a separate piece altogether as well. Now, I don't want to take this apart because your figure may vary, but it's very tight, and sometimes it may be a little difficult to get this to sit flush without seeing any of the seams, without seeing any of a gap that occurs in between the different pieces. And once you get it in there, you don't really want to take it out. Now, you could just try to heat it up like with the blow dryer in order to make things fit better. But if you don't have a blow dryer or hair dryer and you don't want to do that in general, you just have to be careful. What I had to do is I put a little bit of muscle in this just to get it to fit in the way that I was comfortable with. But you got to be careful not to break anything. And also, when you get the gun doesn't just slide down into his hand at first. What you have to do is you have to kind of pry his fingers apart, but you got to be careful not to break the fingers. It's a softer material, so it's not going to snap very easily. But that's the only way you can get the gun in. And once you got the gun in, just leave it there. Don't take the gun out. Just leave it there because don't want to overstress anything and have them break. But nice little detail about this is you can see his trigger finger is pretty much right on the trigger of that gun. And I think that is a really, really nice touch to all this. And we can just get a little closer look at this gun to take a look at the detail of it. Very nice detail on the gun. It looks a little worn. It doesn't look like it's fresh out the shop because of course it would not be. And it's a really, really nice revolver for Rick Grimes. So what I am going to do right now is I'm going to attach this arm to Rick Grimes and you can see what he looks like in that separate pose. So that's what it's like when you take the arm off, and here's what that attachment is that he had the rifle. So his right arm is off, and I am just going to take this right here and just try to pop it in. And like I said, sometimes this can be easy, sometimes this can be hard. You see, I got that in there very easily that time, but it was only after I worked it. I had to work with it a bit more in order to get it to fall into place as easily as that. When I first tried to do it, it wouldn't line up just right. But after working with it, giving a little bit of muscle and trying not to snap it, I am able to get it like that to the point where you can't really see any gaps in between the shoulder. And I think that's a very nice touch. So let's get a 360 shot of Rick Grimes holding this pistol. I think this is a really good look. I think it is a great look for him. And it's a really awesome dynamic pose when you have him like this. Seriously, like he means business. And this is definitely going to be a standout figure for you should you decide to get him and put him on display. That coupled with such amazing detail. I mean, just the way that those colors work. And even in his arms, you can see the veins in his arms and the dirt on his arms, and it really, really stands out very well in a very subtle way. It's not like, hey, look at me, I've got veins, but at the same time it's like, man, this guy has veins, and usually it could have just been a flesh tone and they could have just been done with it just like that. But they decided to put the veins in his arms. You can kind of see it if my shadow isn't blocking it, right around there, the indentations and the creases where his biceps are and where his wrists are. Oh, it's just so good. And I love the way that he grips that gun. It really looks like he has his palms really just firmly, or his fingers firmly around the handle of that gun. And like I pointed out before, the trigger finger of him is right on the trigger of that gun, or at least very close to it. So all those things combined, and you get yourself a really nice statue of Rick Grimes getting ready to shoot something in the face. The last accessory that you get is this knife, and it's okay. As far as the other accessories go, I think that this knife is my least favorite. It's a little bendy, not too bendy. It's one of those things where it only bends if you really try to bend it, but just compared to that rifle, it doesn't feel as good as, or not the rifle, as the handgun. It doesn't feel as good as the handgun, and to some degree, it's not as good as the sniper rifle, but it's something that you can just sort of put on this holster, a little additional thing. They didn't have to include this, but they did, and I'm happy they did. So it's one of those things where, it won't bring this into like the next level. It won't take it to any new heights, but it definitely doesn't take away from anything in general. Now, as for articulation, there really is none. It's not meant to be. There are some parts of Rick Grimes that move slightly, but then again, I don't know if they're even supposed to because they don't add too much to the overall package. For example, his left arm only sort of nudges, so that makes me feel like you're really not supposed to be moving his left arm around. And then also, his left arm or his left wrist, it sort of swivels, but then again, it doesn't really add anything, so I don't think you're supposed to be moving that around. And I definitely don't want to loosen up his wrist and have it fall to the ground. I don't want to do that. And as for the waist, there is nothing there. As for the feet, it pivots a little bit up and down. You can see that it moves just a little bit. There are no little holes in his feet to get him to stand anywhere, but his feet move just a little bit. But there's really no need to. He stands on his own very well. Very, very well. I never had him topple over at any point. And that's even when I have him on here just sort of spinning around. And if I do it, kind of quickly. Oh, there he goes. He finally started to fall after really moving him around a little bit fast. Here's something else. This little part right here is a little loose, but you just got to give it just a little bit of elbow grease, just a little bit, and then it tightens up again. So there's there's a little inconsistency as far as the tightness and the looseness of some of these parts. It could very well vary by figure, so yours may not be like that and yours may be like that. But just know that if you run into a situation where something seems a little bit tight, don't force it. You got to kind of work it. So when you put the arm socket in, just kind of rock it back and forth, just from side to side, whatever you got to do to sort of ease it in there. Just don't just don't jam it in there. You got to be gentle, and even better, get like a hair dryer or something just to warm it up to make things flow more easily. Because like I said, with the other arm attachment, I had such a hard time putting that in and getting it to sit flush, but then after working with it for a while, it just snaps right in place. So it's going to be one of those things. Overall, I am very happy with this figure. I'm very happy with this Rick Grimes. I think that McFarlane Toys did a really amazing job with him, and at what I think is a pretty affordable price as well. The detail is really good. The paint is exceptional, and the only thing that makes me go, oh man, I wish that could have been better, besides the inconsistencies with the tightness of the joints and everything, is the face and how it sort of looks like Andrew Lincoln from some angles, and then from other angles not so much, but it's acceptable. I can get over that because you still know who the guy is when you are looking at him and when he's displayed. So thumbs up from me. This is good. It has my recommendation, and it's one of the nicest figures that I have. And for between $28 and $34, you can't really beat this at a consumer level, Toys R Us, mass market distribution type of thing. This is good. Thumbs up from me. I think you should get it if you like figures and you're a fan of The Walking Dead, the TV show, and or the comics, whatever one you prefer. So, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I'm Jeremy, and I will talk to you later.